Thank you so much. Well, I thought what I would talk to you a little bit about now is like the practicalities of running a course. So I just want to try and, we've made so many mistakes over the years. What I'm going to try and do in this session is pass on some of the benefits of our mistakes. So you don't have to make the same mistakes that we've made, because we have made so many mistakes over the years. So I want to explain right at the start of this session what exactly is Alpha. When we put on that first conference that I told you about earlier, where we had 1,000 pastors coming, back in 1993, we had a question and answer session at the end of day 2. And I'll never forget the first question, and we just threw it open to the floor. Anyone want to ask a question? And somebody stood up and they said, thank you so much for these 2 days. We really enjoyed the conference. But we all have just one question. What is Alpha? And what I realized was I spent 2 days telling them why they should run Alpha and all the benefits and all this stuff, but I never actually told them what is Alpha. So I know many of you are very familiar. We saw that in the survey, but I'm also conscious that a lot of people here are probably quite new to Alpha. And even if you're not new to Alpha, how would you explain it to someone who didn't know about Alpha? And what we use is the Alpha mnemonic. And this obviously won't work in the different languages, so you'll have to translate it. But let me just use the English version of it, which is ALPHA. So A stands for anyone interested in finding out more about Christianity. And that includes a number of different categories of people. Number one, people who are not Christians. So they might be Buddhists or atheists or rationalists or agnostics or any category, but not Christians. That's the number one category of people. This is not primarily designed for people who are already in church. Sometimes pastors have said to me, oh, we're planning to run it on Sunday as a series for the church. And I say, please don't do that. This is not for the church. If you do that, you'll kill it, because people will think they won't realize what it is. This is designed for people who don't go to church. This is designed for people who are not Christians. That's the first category, people who are not Christians. Second category is people who don't go to church. So I don't know how it is in your country, but it's probably very different from in England. But England, the UK, was once a Christian country. No longer, really, in terms of church going. It's a very small percentage now of people who go to church. But still, if you ask people on a survey, what religion are you? They would put down 70% probably, or 60% would put down Christian. But very few of them go to church. Only about 7% of the population go to church. So there's a category of people who are not church Christian. They will call themselves Christian, but not churchgoers. And again, the course is aimed at them. So on our course this time, in our small group this time, we had one young woman. She's 28 years of age. She had never been to church. I mean, she was definitely not a Christian. She'd never been to church in her life. First time she's ever been in church was the 3rd of January. She came to church, and what we do just before the course starts, we have 2 Sundays. So the first one will be the Sunday after next when I get back to London. We'll have 2 Sundays where we have stories of people who've been on the previous course. So I will interview that man, David, who I told you about. I'll interview the man who had that 40-year gap between when he last cried and when he cried again, where he reconnected. In our services, in our church services on Sunday, we have 10 services on Sunday because we have four sites now. Because if you have lots of people coming to faith, the church grows. We plant a lot of churches, they run Alpha, and they grow. So in our church services, for 2 Sundays in a row, we'll have the stories of the people. I'll interview the people, for example, in our small group, who were not Christians and who came to faith in Jesus. Well, this young woman, 28 years of age, she's a presenter on television. She's a female presenter, very unusual. She presents sports like boxing. I think she's the only female presenter presenting boxing. Never been to church. Never, ever been in a church until January the 3rd. She came on January the 3rd, and she heard the stories. And she thought, oh, that sounds interesting. I'd like to come on the course. She heard the talk, who is Jesus? She said at the end, I didn't know, I never heard about Jesus dying on a cross. She'd never ever heard that Jesus died on a cross. This is someone living in England now, UK. UK is no longer a Christian country in the sense that everyone knows the story. She didn't know the story, but she was fascinated. She's been to church every Sunday since. She's been every time she can. She's very busy. Sometimes her work takes us all over the country. She couldn't always be there. But she's an example of someone who was definitely not a Christian. The others who would have described themselves as Christian, but didn't go near a church before. So that's the second category. People who are not Christians, people who are not churchgoers. The third category is new Christians. So in our 2 services that are coming up, the week after next and the following one, we will give people the opportunity in the services, in the church services on Sunday, to encounter Jesus, to pray a prayer giving their lives to Christ. And if some people do that, we'll say, now come on Alpha. They'll be very new to the faith. They won't know anything. And Alpha was originally designed as a course for people who were new to faith. So it works very well for people. If you have some event going on in your church where people have the chance to come to know Jesus, this is a great way to follow up. People who are new to faith. Fourth category, people who are new to the church. Sometimes people move. They've been at university, they come to London, they start coming to our church, they're already Christians, but they're new to the church. And we use it as a way to introduce people to the values of the church. Because a lot of people, they may be going to church, but sometimes they don't really understand what's going on in a church. One man said to me, for me, going to church was like going to a movie, but starting the movie halfway through. Until I went on Alpha, I didn't understand the first half of the movie. Alpha was like introducing me to the first half of the movie. Who is Jesus? Why did he die? The resurrection. What is faith? Why is it important to read the Bible? How do you pray? These are the first talks. People say, well, I never heard about those things. So people who are new to the church. Fifth category is people who, this is how we put it, they want to brush up on the basics. So maybe they have been going to church sometimes a long time, but they've never experienced the Holy Spirit. We have people like that. They say, I was brought up as a Christian, but I've never really heard about the Holy Spirit. So sometimes for people like that, the course can be life-changing. So that's A. A is for anyone interested in finding out more about the Christian faith. L. A-L. Alpha spelled A-L-P-H-A. A is for anyone. L is for learning and laughing. That's really important. The people come to learn about the Christian faith, but they also have fun at the same time. Alpha is not intense. Intensity is not a fruit of the Holy Spirit. It's fun. You know, Jesus went to parties. He had fun. He laughed with people. He enjoyed people's company. And this is fun. There's lots of laughter. We have supper together. And you come into Alpha, now we have about 800 people divided into about 45 small groups. In all the small groups, you'll find there's lots of laughter going on. People have fun, laughing. We had one of the evenings on our last course, I don't think I have ever laughed so much in 45 minutes. It was like almost continual laughter. We were just having such fun together. In the talks, we try and introduce as much humor as we can. Being British, it's mainly self-deprecating humor. And we tell jokes. Yeah. Alpha's been running now since 1977, so that's 39 years. Over those 39 years, we have been collecting jokes, and we now have 6 jokes. And we tell those 6 jokes over and over and over again. We're still looking for a 7th joke. If you know a 7th joke, we'll pay a large sum of money for it. So it's learning about the Christian faith, which is the most important thing that anyone can ever learn about, but having fun at the same time. So that's L. A-L-P. P is for pasta. And pasta is not a theological term. Pasta is the food that we eat. The Americans call it pasta. For us, pastor is the person who runs the church. And we try not to eat the person who runs the church. So, I don't know what would be the equivalent for you. Pasta, pizza, paella, what is it? What would it be? Is there anything that begins with P? Pow. Pow. What is that? Dumplings, okay. Pow. So P is for pow. It's for food. And so food is an important part because some people come for the food. You know, that's the reason they come. We give them really good food. We give them as good food as we can get. When Alpha started, in fact, the very first time I went to an Alpha course was back in 1977. I was one of the speakers on the course. It was then a 6-week course for people already Christians. But there were only probably 6 people on the course. And our course is just a small Alpha course that has grown. Most courses would only be about 10 or 12 people. If you have 10 or 12 people, you can give them really good food. It doesn't have to be expensive food, but you can give very good food. You take it in turns to cook the food. That's what we did when we had 12 people. Each person took it in turns to cook the food. One of the hosts did it the first night. Another of the hosts the second night. One of the helpers the third night. Another helper the fourth night. 5th night, the first person to be converted did the food, the 5th night. Last night, the last person to be converted did the food. But food is a really important part of the evening. When we grew, we used to get each small group to take it in turns to cook the food. Now we have a caterer because it's quite hard to say to someone, we've got 800 people, would you do the food for next week? So we have a caterer and we charge people the amount it costs us. It's not very much, but it's hard to give really good food when you have 800 people, but we want it to be as good as possible because we want people outside the church to say, wow, this is really good. So we give them food, and then they eat before, and then we have the talk. We have a little bit of singing. We have the talk, and then we go into the small groups, and we have coffee and cake and biscuits and things again, and people take it in turns to cook that. And that, again, it's fun. It's this sort of eating together. Eating together is very biblical, isn't it? Jesus ate, always eating. Actually, Malaysia is a good place to come about food. There's lots of eating I've discovered here. We're always eating. And that's biblical as well. You're eating together. Jesus is eating with the disciples. And someone said to me, there's something almost sacramental about the meal on Alpha. And it is. It's a really important part of the evening. So that's P. A-L-P. H is for helping one another. And that goes together with the final A, because that stands for ask anything. Alpha starts with an A and ends with an A. And it stands for ask anything. In the small group, you can ask any question you want. No question is too hostile. Some people who come on the course are very angry. They've been hurt. We had one woman in our group, she's so angry. I don't know what's happened to her, but she is so angry about it. And some of the things she said might sound very offensive to Christians, but you can say anything in the small group. You can ask any question. No question is too hostile. No question is too simple. So it's okay to ask. Like this young woman asked. She said, I've never heard about the cross. I never heard that Jesus died on a cross. And anyway, why did Jesus come? She said, forgive me, this may sound a very stupid question, but why did Jesus come? I said, no, that's a great question. We always say to people when they ask a question or when they say something, that's a great question. That's really interesting. We want to affirm each person when they come. It's what people love coming to Alpha, because they're not judged. They're not criticized. We don't argue with them. We don't confront them. We don't humiliate them. In this group, some people said some really stupid things. You have to keep your mouth shut. That's what we train the leaders and helpers. Keep your mouth shut. Listen. The first part of the evening, we give the talk. We tell them who is Jesus. We talk about Jesus died on the cross for you. Jesus rose from the dead. We do the talking. Second part of the evening in the small groups, they do the talking. We don't preach a second talk. So in the small group, this is so important. The most important thing is to train people, keep your mouth shut. Only the helpers don't say anything. The hosts, they basically only ask questions. And it's really important that we don't confront the guests. We don't argue with them. We listen to them. So, for example, in this small group, on week 2, or week 3, I think it was. I can't remember, week 2 or week 3. One of the guests said, I think all this stuff about Jesus, it's a whole lot of nonsense. It's all made up. Said, the earliest evidence we have about Jesus comes from 900 AD. That's the first time anybody recorded anything about Jesus was 900 AD. Everybody knows that's rubbish. Absolute rubbish. You all know that's rubbish. Even so, one of the helpers in our small group, I could see he was longing to say, no, we have much earlier evidence. We got all these documents, da-da-da-da-da. And I wanted to grab him by the knee and say, keep your mouth shut. Don't answer it. Because if you answer that person, I said, there's enough knowledge in this room to completely destroy that woman's argument. Don't do it. But they say, but she's saying that other people might be influenced by what she's saying. No, don't humiliate her. You can answer that question. You can prove her wrong. You can prove your point, but she will never come back because she's been humiliated. And other people in the group won't come back because they saw what happened to her and they don't want to be humiliated. Keep your mouth shut. Let them talk. Let them say things that are rubbish. It doesn't matter. She kept coming. And she came to faith at the weekend. The woman who said that, she came to faith at the weekend. She's the one who started a WhatsApp group amongst the people on the group. She's the one who really wants to come and help on the next course. She's in church now every Sunday. She didn't need her question answered. She didn't need to be refuted. She just needed to say that stuff and see that people didn't judge her, didn't confront her, didn't argue with her. They respected her. They loved her. And she's now come to faith in Jesus. So the key thing, keep your mouth shut and let them answer each other's questions. As the time goes on, one of them will experience Jesus. After the weekend, when they heard all those stories about David and his inexplicable joy, when they heard about this man connecting his heart and his spirit, the ones who hadn't been on the weekend, one of them said, I feel so sad. I missed the weekend. So we put on a day for those who missed the weekend. A day is not nearly as good as the weekend, but it's better than nothing. And she went, and about 5 of the people in the group went on a day. So it's about helping one another. That's what the H stands for. Helping one another. And that's the guests help each other. So I want to show you how a small group works. So I don't know how this will work, but I'm going to demonstrate an alpha small group. Okay, so I need 6 volunteers. There are 12 people in the group, but we're only going to look at half the group. So I need 6 volunteers. And the perfect person to volunteer would be 27 years of age, which is the average age of the people on the group, and you would speak English. That will make it easier for me to talk to you. So is there anyone who is 27 and speaks English, or a little bit of English? Anyone who's 26, or 28, or 24, or 25? Anyone who's in there? Okay, there must be someone. Okay, great. We need 3 men and 3 women. Okay, that's fine. Okay, we need 3 men and 3 women. Come on up. 1, 2. We've got 3 men. We need 3 women. Yes, brilliant. 1, 2, 3. We need 2 more women. Fantastic. We got them. Fantastic. This is the Alpha small group. Wow, what a small group this is. Okay, we've got to split out the guys. We don't do, this is like the student dance. The girls on the right, boys on the left. No, this is, okay, no, you go here, because that's great. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Perfect. Okay. So, this is the first night of the Alpha course, and some of you are probably senior pastors, but you have to pretend you are atheists. You are agnostics. None of you are Christians, okay? So this is the very first night of the course. They've arrived here and we've had the introductory talk. The introductory talk is basically, what is Christianity? It used to be called Christianity boring, irrelevant, and untrue, ? So it's an introductory talk. They have supper, they have the talk, they have coffee, and then they go down. We go into small groups. So on our course, that would be 45 small groups. On a typical course, there would only be 1 small group. So maybe, and some courses, the talk is done by video. Sometimes it's done by a live speaker. Sometimes it's done by video. We'll talk more about all the different ways of doing the talk as this time goes on. So they've heard the talk. They've had some coffee, tea. In England, we have tea, coffee, whatever, and cake. Pippa's made cake because it's the first night, and she makes very good cake. So they've had some cake, and now I'm the host. So this is what we do. We do 4 things on the first night. Number 1, we play a very silly game. It's called the name game. And what we do is, now, can you turn them around so I can see what your names are? Okay, there's one. I don't know if this is going to work. Okay, so Priscilla is going to work with Priscilla, and it can work with Charles. So I'll mix up two things that you do. So the name game, we say, this is a way to learn people's names. So what we say is, think of an adjective that begins with the same letter as your Christian name. Or the other thing we do is we say, think of a famous person who has the same name as you. So there's Charlie, is it? Charles. So can you think of a famous person called Charles? Have we got some microphones we can give them? Thank you so much. Can you think of a famous person called Charles?
Prince Charles.
Okay, Prince Charles. So he's going to call himself Prince Charles. And Priscilla, can you think of a famous person called Priscilla?
Priscilla Presley.
Priscilla Presley. Okay, so that's Prince Charles. This is Priscilla Presley. And have any of other of you got names like you could think of someone? Because I don't know what the Sol. Okay, is there a famous person called Sol?
Solar system.
Okay, anybody else? Otherwise, think of an adjective that begins with the same letter as your. So, let's start at this end. Can you think of an adjective that begins with the same letter as your?
So my name is Ratsmay, start with R.
What's your Christian name is?
My name is Ratsmay.
Ratsmay.
Yeah.
Can you think of an adjective that begins with R
Yeah.
to describe you? It's got to be a positive adjective.
Yeah. Yeah, responsible.
Responsible Ramsky. Okay, responsible Ramsky. And then we have got, so can you think of an adjective that begins with M?
My name is Mylena, so I pick marvelous.
Marvelous. Yes, excellent. Excellent. This is Prince Charles.
I'm Chapman. Many people read my books. Gary Chapman.
Gary Chapman. Is that your name? Chapman? Chapman. Okay. Okay. And this is Priscilla Presley.
Shy Sol.
Shy
Sol.
Shy Sol. So, Shy Sol.
Shy.
Okay. 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 So, but what you have to do, okay, this is what you do. So we start over here. So you say you are responsible Ramsky. Okay, now you have to say, my name is, and then you have to repeat what he is. So you say, my name is...
My name is marvelous Mylena.
And this is...
And this is responsible Raxmay.
Okay, now we go to Prince Charles. You say, my name is...
My name is Prince Charles.
And then...
And then her name is Marvelous Mylena. And Responsible Roxmay.
I'm Gary Chapman, and this is Prince Charles, and this is Marvelous Mylena, and that is Responsible Ramsby.
Okay.
I'm Priscilla Presley. Heard my music. Gary Chapman. And that's Prince Charles, Marvelous Mylena, and Responsible Raxmi.
Hi, I'm Shy Sol. Same as the copy. Joke lang. He's Responsible Ramsey, Marvelous Mylena, Prince Charles, Gary Chapman, and Priscilla Presley.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. Fantastic. Okay, so this is the best way to remember people's names. Because by the time you get to you, and there are 12 people in the group, you'll have heard Ramsky's name 12 times. I can't even do them after hearing them. I can do Prince Charles and Priscilla, and I can do Shy Soul, but I can't do. This is a good way to learn their names, and also you get a lot of laughs. You get so it's a fun way to learn people's names, and just an icebreaker to get to know each other, have a bit of a laugh. And then the second thing that we do is something like, if your house was on fire, you can do different things, but this is another icebreaker we sometimes do. If your house was on fire and you could only take one thing, assume that the people get out. Your wife and children get out, your parents are out, your friends are out. But there's just one thing that you would take out of your house. What one thing would you take out of your house? If you could only rescue one thing from the house. Go on, you can start anyway. Sorry. You go on, what would you do?
iPhone.
You take your iPhone.
Because everything is in there, one contact.
Okay. Well, yeah, let's keep going around.
Take my piano with me.
Your piano, okay. Your piano.
Oh, wow. PlayStation 4.
I'll take my refrigerator.
Refrigerator.
I'll save my certificates.
Your what?
Certificates, every certificate I have.
Okay.
Can I take my wife?
Take your what? No, wife. No. Your wife's out. She's very safe. She's safe. You have to take something.
Yeah. I will take my books.
Your books. Okay. So this is, it's again, you get lots of laughs, but also you've got some things that maybe, you could ask about the piano. So you're a pianist. So, it's something that helps you with your conversation afterwards. You're getting to know them a little bit. Having a bit of a laugh, it's just an icebreaker. Third thing that we ask is, how did you come to be here tonight? So not an intense question, which would be, where do you stand in relation to Christianity? But how do you come to be here tonight? Then they can say anything. So you're none of you are Christians. So how do you come to be here tonight?
By plane.
By what?
By plane, taking a plane.
What's this? A plane.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was good answer.
Actually, I got a question.
Good answer. But that's one description of how you came to be here.
By car, actually.
By car. You came by car. Okay. But was there a reason that you came?
Okay. Well, I heard a little bit about Christianity, so I just want to come and hear more. Pretty interested.
Okay. Brilliant. Thank you.
I was invited here by my pastor, Budiman Salim.
Okay.
I heard there's a free food here.
Okay.
I heard that all beautiful girls come to church.
I heard that there's great cake made specially for us, so yay.
I just came across the poster, and it's for free, so I got in.
Brilliant. Okay, so you begin to hear a little bit about where they stand, because and it's really important to start with someone. Sometimes you'll find that there are people who are already Christians in the group. Don't start with them, because you don't want the first person to say, well, I've been a missionary for 20 years. Because then they all think, I can't really say I'm an atheist, because I'm telling them they've wasted 20 years. And then they all, if the first person says, I've been a missionary for 20 years, they all try and sound Christian. So start with somebody who's going to say, I've been dragged along, or just or I've come for free food, or I've come because I've heard that there's some pretty girls here or something. That enables everyone to be honest about why they've come. So that's the third thing. Fourth thing that we do on the first night is we say, it's very important how you phrase this question. If it turned out there was a God, after all, what question would you ask? So don't say, what question would you ask God? Because then they think, oh, I thought this was a course for people who weren't believers. And now the very first question they're asking assumes that there's a God. No, no, no. If it turned out there was a God after all, and you could ask one question, what would you ask? Not what would you ask him? That assumes God's male. But what question would you ask? If it turned out there was a God after all, what question would you ask? So, if it turned out there was a God after all, bear in mind you're all atheists, agnostics, other religions, none of you are Christians. If it turned out there was a God after all, and you could ask one question, what question would you ask? Doesn't matter, any order, any of you got questions?
Does he really love?
Okay, great question.
Which pretty girl is mine?
How did you die and rose again?
How?
How did you die and rose again?
Okay. So now we've had 3 questions. At this stage, what I would say is, wow, these are really interesting questions. One about does God love us? One about pretty girls. One about well, actually, you could say that's a question about does God have a plan for me? Does he have someone specific for me to marry? So these are great questions. Let's write them down. So not in a very formal way, but I just grab a piece of paper and say, we don't want to lose any of these questions, so let's write these down. And I just write them down, so that's... okay, so that was the first question was about God's love. Second question was about girls. Third question was about death and resurrection. Okay, any other questions?
Why is there cancer?
Why?
Is there cancer?
Why is there cancer?
And it happens.
Very, very good question. Why is there cancer? Why does God allow suffering? That really is a question about.
Can you show up, please?
Yeah. Why doesn't God reveal himself in some way? Just can you show up? Go on. And
What is the characteristics of God?
what
What are the characteristics of God?
characteristics? What is God like? What is his characteristic? Okay, so these are great questions. And it's important to say every time they ask a question, wow, that's a great question. Some people are very confident. These guys are very confident. Some people are more shy. And we have to encourage the shy ones and the confident ones. What you don't want is the group dominated by the confident ones. So you have to, that's the host. The host is there to make sure everyone gets a chance to speak, but we have to encourage shy soul to speak. So when she says something, we say, wow, that's a great question. It was hard for her to ask the question, but when she says it, you encourage her. That's a great question. It's a really interesting question. We've written them all down. That shows that we regard each of those questions as really important. And then I would say, look, we're not going to have time to answer all these questions tonight. This is the first night. We only meet for like 45 minutes, the small group. We are not going to have time to answer all your questions. But we hope that by the end, I'm going to hang on to this piece of paper. And I hope that by the end of the course, we will have answered all your questions. And on the last night, we'll get this piece of paper out, and we'll see how many of these questions we've answered. So that tells them a question about suffering. Saul asked this question, why is there cancer? Why does God allow suffering? That's a massive question. You can't answer that the first night. If you try and answer that the first night, everyone will think, well, that wasn't a great answer. Or we didn't have long enough on that. And if we try and discuss God's love, or if we try and discuss what is the characteristics of God, they'll think, oh, they didn't answer my question. My question was about suffering. They couldn't answer that one. So if you try and answer any of the questions, people will leave unsatisfied. But what you can say is, wow, these are great questions. We will try and deal with all these by the end of the course. And maybe tonight we'll just touch on one thing. Does God love us? or something. But what you've done is affirm their questions. You've also encouraged them to come back because they know that at some point in the course, their question is going to be discussed. Okay, and then when the discussion starts, and this applies to week 1, but it also applies to all the weeks of the course. This is how the discussion takes place. So, this ball represents the discussion. Whoever's holding the ball is doing the talking. Okay, I want to demonstrate to you, first of all, how an alpha small group does not work. So, Charles is very confident, Prince Charles. Just check it back to me. So this is not how it works. This is because Charles is very confident. He's got lots of questions. He's asking questions. I'm answering them. And then he's saying another thing, and then I'm answering that. This is obviously very boring for everybody else in the small group. It's very enjoyable for me, and possibly Charles feels involved. But that's it. So that's obviously not how a small group works. Secondly, this is not how a small group works. So sorry, can you just keep throwing it back to me? Yeah. So this is me, and I'm trying to involve everybody in the small group. Sol and Priscilla, and I'm chucking it here. Yeah, it's just going on. Just keep chucking it back to me. This is not how. This now everybody's involved, but do you notice it all revolves around me? So I'm asking the questions, I'm commenting on what they say, I'm involving everybody in the small group, so it's better than the first one, but it is not how the alpha small group works. This is how the alpha small group works. Okay, you chuck it around amongst yourselves. Yeah. So now they're talking to each other. One person's asking a question. Oh, it can occasionally come back to me. That's okay. But it's keep checking around amongst yourselves. So this is an alpha small group. They are talking to each other. They're listening to each other. They're learning from each other. And people think, how can this work? Because these people are not Christians. But it works. Trust me, this works. People who are Christians sometimes come and say, why aren't you answering their question? They're asking such a good question. Why did Jesus die on the cross? And you're not answering it. And you know the answer. How can you just sit there? Trust me, it works. Let them talk among themselves. It doesn't matter if their answers are not the exact, perfect theological answer that St. Augustine would have given to that question. It's okay. Just let them talk. They're getting to know each other. They're learning from each other. They're having fun. There'll come a point where they will chuck the ball. Yeah, like that. Because maybe about week 8, they're so frustrated that you haven't answered their questions. But when you do answer, they're not going to interrupt you. They're not going to contradict you. They're just going to listen to every word you say because they're so relieved you've actually said something. But you have to earn that. Don't speak week 1, don't speak week 2, don't speak the earlier weeks. Let them do the talking. Let them get their questions out. And then there will come a point, and you can always answer their questions one-to-one. When the group's over, you can, if Charles has got a question, we can have a cup of coffee together, we can chat about it, he can ask his questions, and I will answer them on a one-to-one basis, but not in the small group. Small group is them talking to each other. So, give them a round of applause, our wonderful small group. Okay, so that's the alpha mnemonic, A-L-P-H-A. We've only got about 3 minutes left, so I'm going to just very quickly say one or two things about actually, I'm not going to say it. I haven't got any time left. So oh, goodness, we've overrun. We've overrun. So it's time to break for lunch. Would you like to stand? We're going to pray. We're going to break for lunch. And then you've got lots of sessions this afternoon. So sorry, I had looked at my watch. Lord, we thank you so much for each person here and all the different questions they've got and all the different things that we're going to be looking at in these next 2 days. And we thank you for our friendship. Thank you so much, Lord, for each person here. And we pray, Lord, that you will continue to speak to us, be with us, and to equip us to reach people with the good news of Jesus. Amen. God bless you. Have a great lunch. See you afterwards.